Hi everybody, this is the Football Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut, and this is another visit, and a visit we haven't done in a long time at the Football Hut. And of course, we're going to visit the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Now, welcome back to the Football Hut, and of course, hopefully you like this video. You know, the one thing you never want to do is take advice from a guy that is a resident of a nervous hospital, and that's what is being asked of by a legendary player, former player in the NFL, Tom Brady. Well, it seems that Boomer Esiason, also known as Norman Esiason, is imparting his knowledge, his broadcasting knowledge to Tom. Now, Tom is enormously successful. He's one of the most successful athletes in the world. This is a guy that came up out of nowhere to become one of the greatest players in the history of sports in this country. And now we have Boomer giving him advice on something. And of course, you know, Tom is now a broadcaster, and he started his first year. You know, there's going to be some, it's going to take some growing pains, and you know, this is a guy who's all been about himself and about his team, and now he has to think about the audience, which is very different than this situation. I've not read this. It's from awful announcing. This is what Boomer had to say. This is what Boomer Esiason of WFAN had to say when it comes to this. And like I said, he's a patient, a long-term patient at the insane asylum known as the Fan on the Fan. Boomer Esiason shares broadcasting advice for Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady is a 40-time Super Bowl champion. No, 7-time Super Bowl champion, both with the Patriots and the Buccaneers. He lost like 3 or 4. 2 of them to, of course, Eli Manning. It's something that he will have on his epitaph, that he couldn't beat Eli. And that'll get Eli eventually into the Hall of Fame in the NFL. Hopefully in year 2, Tom Brady will feel more comfortable, more confidence, and understand exactly what the viewers are looking for, okay? I know one thing, folks. Norman expects that Tom not take any days off. Keep working and working and working. Even when the games aren't going on, keep working, Tom. Don't take any time off to hang out with Sofia Vergara. He's hanging out with her. Do not do that. Do not take any time off for anything, any birthdays, anything. It's all about work, work, work. Few athletes were better prepared for life after football than Boomer Esiason, the former quarterback and 1988 NFL MVP for the Cincinnati Bengals, and also loser to the, of course, the legendary Joe Montana, has built a long and distinguished broadcasting career. He currently co-hosts the Boomer and Gio show alongside Greg Giannotti on WFAN radio in New York City. He's also been there since Imus was fired and Sutter was there. And he hasn't left. I think he's still there because the people that own the radio station, the people that are his bosses, are scared of him. He's in better shape than all of them, even at his age. And he's, I think they're, like I said, a little scared of him, and he's not going there. He was a long-time studio analyst for CBS's NFL Today, and game analyst for ABC's Monday Night Football. Also did the radio. I think that's what they mean. He did the radio for a long time. We recently caught up with Esiason. Oh, it's an interview. We recently caught up with Esiason to discuss how he successfully transitioned from the football field to broadcasting. We also asked him about Tom Brady's TV career and his recent comments about Yankees Derek Jeter and Dave Sims. Oh, it's an interview. Oh, this interview has been edited and condensed. Length and clarity. Whoa. This is from Awful. Did you always think you would be a broadcaster? Boomer said this: I did. I studied radio, television, and film at the University of Maryland. I took 2 internships at WJZ-TV in Baltimore. I worked for Gail Gardner. She was the sports reporter. I worked there for 2 years. At the same time, Oprah Winfrey was there. She was doing local news, but yeah, I cut my teeth at a TV station, and I loved it. He also used to do like voiceovers for a supermarket here on Long Island. And they were, I wish I could get a hold of those things. That supermarket doesn't exist anymore. But But he said this supermarket back in the day saved his Christmases and Thanksgivings. I shit you not. He's a guy that's how he really got to start, especially in the New York area. I knew that eventually, hopefully, I would be on the other side of the camera as opposed to being the interviewee. I would be the interviewer. But did he tell anybody how the supermarket saved family Christmas? It is very, I should look it up. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. Awful. So you always had a post-playing career plan. I certainly had a plan. What people don't realize is that if I wanted to do the voice, I do the voice of a boomer. And it didn't sound like that back then. I certainly had a plan, and what people don't realize is that when I was playing in 1991, the World League of American Football came into existence. It was supported by the NFL. Warren Moon, Dan Marino, and I were hired as analysts in the offseason to do those broadcasts. The Monday night broadcast that I did for 2 years, I worked for Ken Wolf and Craig Janoff, who were the producer and director of ABC Monday Night Football. I was, I guess, exposed, if you will, to all the trappings of doing a real game with real professionals. Lots of cameras, lots of replays, and things of that nature. And I worked with Brad Nessler, who was awesome to work with. Again, he doesn't mention the supermarket voiceovers he used to do back in the 90s, like 93, 94. What was your big break? Well, funny you should ask. When I finally decided to retire, because he couldn't play anymore, and he had bad injuries, it was because ABC Monday Night Football, still under the guidance of Kenny Wolf and Craig Janoff at the time, called me and asked if I would replace Frank Gifford, who was leaving. I said, yes, I jumped into the booth feet first. There was a lot of learning that I had to do at that level. It was a completely different set of circumstances than 7 or 8 years earlier on the USA Network. So this is what he had to say about Tom Brady. How can Tom Brady improve in his second year as a broadcaster? Quote, I think it's just about being genuine. I sense a level of comfort with him and Kevin Burkhardt as the year went on. Tom has always been careful, never really controversial, especially when it came to football. Kind of followed the Bill Belichick way of talking about teams and things of that nature. And even meeting with Tom before games, he never really gave you much. He was always guarded. I think what you try to do is become as genuine as you can in the broadcast booth. I don't necessarily know that anybody will be as genuine as the great John Madden was or Merlin Olsen. Merlin Olsen was pretty good. He was also good on Little House on the Prairie, too. And those were different times. There wasn't social media impact and everything that goes on. Not everybody's going to love you as a broadcast. I learned that pretty early on. Any other advice for Tom Brady. Hopefully in year 2, he'll feel more comfortable and more confident and understand exactly what the viewers are looking for. I would say most analysts these days are very careful. They're not nearly as critical as some have been in the past. My former teammate Chris Collinsworth probably falls on that category because when he started TV, he was covering a lot of games. I had a couple of bad games, and I remember him being pretty critical of the way I was playing. Richard Sandomir was a sports TV columnist. Richard gave, I think, Chris 5 stars because he was able to criticize me, his former teammate. Chris was much more critical back when he first started. How much do you miss not being on NFL Today? I don't miss it at all. I have 20 more jobs. I love my 22 years there. They treat me professionally. Sean McMahon treat me amazing. Okay. What is the secret behind your long radio career? Just being there. No, that's not what he said. First of all, you've got to have good partners. He's got to be there. You got to have an opportunity that falls in your lap. And that's what happened. It was an emergency. I'm going to read this. It's just all nice fluff. You want to say something critical? He was there, okay? He already had, obviously all the stuff that he'd done at the NFL. He'd been filling in here and there. They kind of knew what the deal was. He kind of knew what the deal was when it came to broadcasting, the nuts and bolts. It was really who they were going to pair him with, and they had nobody else. Now, he's had solid ratings, but Imus, after he left, said that the biggest disappointment of his career at WFAN was leaving at the hands of Boomer. Okay? Boomer's about as generic as it gets. Once in a while, he gets mad. The biggest thing Boomer gets mad about is when these athletes take time off or don't go to things. I mean, the end of this interview is about Dave Sims and Derek Jeter not being there for the Yankee games. Now, I would mention this thing about Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter's whole career has been about being a Yankee. He's not a Yankee anymore. But he must give thanks to the fans that helped support him all these years, and of course, give thanks to his teammates. And he's not doing that on Old Timers Day. Okay? And that's something that has to be kept in line and be mindful of. He'd have nothing without the fans. He'd have nothing. Absolutely nothing. But that's how I look at it. I don't want to get too detailed with that, but that's a different video for the other channels that I have. But you let me know what you think about this video. And then again, this is another episode and visit to the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha. To the funny farm.